Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Susan Chekow-Lusignan, Director of Marketing and Program Development for the Friends and Foundation of the Rochester Public Library. Welcome to Books Sandwiched In. Please silence your cell phones at this time. Our thanks go to those who help fund programs like these through FFRPL, the dedicated FFRPL committee members who curate and organize these events, our guest speakers who so graciously share their time and talents with us, the library staff who help with our setup and production, and the thousands of people who attend each year. We are live streaming the formal portion of today's program to the library's YouTube channel at Rochester Public Library, New York. If you need to access the induction loop service in the auditorium, please adjust your hearing aid to the T switch. FFRPL expands the library's impact. Our nonprofit organization raises funds, presents programs, supports special projects, helps to create specialized spaces, and purchases supplemental materials and equipment for the Rochester Public Library. FFRPL also provides significant supplemental material support to 62 eligible libraries in the MCLS, OWL, and Neoga library systems through restricted funds. Those libraries serve Monroe County, Ontario, Wayne, Wyoming, and Livingston counties, and Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee counties, respectively. One way we raise funds is from book sales on site at RPL's bookstore and online. We have more than 7,500 quality used books in our online inventory at AbeBooks, Alibris, and Biblio. You can search for RPL Library Store at those sites. We present programs like today's Book Sandwiched In Review and our annual Sokol High School Literary Awards. Sokol registration is now open. You can check our website for details and instructions. We also support special community programs and projects like the Rochester Children's Book Festival, which will feature more than 50 authors and illustrators and will be held at Monroe Community College this Saturday, November 2nd. FFRPL is a presenting sponsor. We help to create specialized spaces, such as the new mobile library, which is slated to be in service by year end. Along with Senator Cooney, FFRPL co-sponsored RIT's mobile outreach van design project teams who were tasked with reimagining a modern mobile library concept. And finally, FFRPL purchases supplemental materials and equipment for the library. We recently supported Monroe County Library System's purchase of a subscription to a multi-language database of more than 4,000 picture books in 65 languages, including sign language and ASL, and it's called LOTE for Kids, or Languages Other Than English. Today, Diane Spacker will review Pockets, an intimate history of how we keep things close by Hannah Carlson. Pockets examines issues of gender politics, security, sexuality, power, and privilege, and outlines how clothing influences how we navigate the world. In their 2023 review of Pockets, the New York Times noted that, quote, unlike female kangaroos, human women and other historically second-class citizens have always had a harder time securing storage close to their person. Diane Spacker is a costume designer recently retired from RCSD School of the Arts. She has also designed for Blackfriars Theater, Pittsford Musicals, and JCC Center Stage. Please welcome Diane to our podium.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to thank Diana Carter, who first contacted me to ask me if I'd be interested in doing a book review. And I know Diana, and she knows me, so of course, when I saw the title, she had me very intrigued, so I had to do this. Let me tell you a little bit about me before we start. I began my career in education. I hold degrees in art education and special ed. And then my second career was a stay-at-home mom. And Through my lifelong love of theater, it sort of developed into this third career of being a costume designer. And I've enjoyed that process for over 20 years. And even in retirement, I'm continuing to design on a much smaller scale. My sewing skills were learned from my mother, who was a seamstress. And over the years, I've learned more from other talented women mentors. I am by no means a fashion historian, but I do research for each play or musical that I design in an attempt to be as accurate as possible to the time period of the production. And pockets can play an integral role in that design. Okay, raise your hand if you have pockets on your clothing that you're wearing today. Ta-da! Keep them up. Keep your hand up if you do not like pockets. Okay. What is the fascination about pockets? Pockets, An Intimate History of How We Keep Things Close by Hannah Carlson dives fully into this subject. The author's research is incredible in this book and provides so much insight into how pockets came to be and their connection with power and privilege, gender inequality, sexuality, security, and social issues. My review will highlight information from each chapter that should give you a glimpse into the world of pockets. Pocket origins, where did we get pockets from? Before pockets, people carried everyday items tied to a belt or a purse fastened to their clothing. And purses did not belong to a single gender, so men and women used them. In the 12th century, tailors made slits at the hip of a garment to access bags held underneath. And the term pocket is a borrowing from the French word for bag. When do we see the first pockets? They show up in men's breeches, which are trousers extending to the knee or just below in the early 14th century. And these are kind of those puffy ones that are small and then they get bigger and bigger. Side note here, there is evidence though that trousers were known to exist from 1000 BC, but disappeared in the medieval times. So now there's coming back. Tailors began to play with the idea of pockets stitched into breeches, a privilege afforded only to men. And at this time, the manufacturing of small handguns brought a whole new light to the political arena regarding pockets. Fear of assassination with small handguns and weapons secretly concealed in pockets was a concern that brought on limits to the size of a pocket and limits to small gun ownership. Also recognized with the criminal aspect of having pockets. Now you've got the labeling of divers and pickpockets. The first pockets were stitched into men's breeches 500 years ago. While women's dress stayed relatively unchanged, men's fashion received a big change with the introduction of the three-piece suit in the late 17th century. From the two-piece doublet and breeches, and think Three Musketeers, influence from the East was borrowed and applied to the three-piece suit, which was a coat, a waistcoat or vest, and breeches. This is when the proliferation of pockets began. More pockets that you had on your three-piece suit led to smaller items being manufactured to fit those pockets. You had pocket watches, notebooks, playing cards, cases to hold important papers, jackknives, tools, and much more. In the mid-17th century, women began wearing tie-on pockets, worn close to the body. The oblong pouches with a slit in the front for an opening were worn under skirts, accessed by slits in the side in the overskirt sides. I need a little drink. you. In the mid-17th century, these pockets were mocked by satirists. In illustrations, the sexual suggestiveness of the shape of the tie-on pocket, corset, and stay lacing were exaggerated. At this time, women dressmakers can work professionally, but only making women and children's clothing. Undergarments were the exception, and the male tailors were still making these. Okay, hands love pockets. What do hands do in pockets? From the time tailors made pockets accessible in the three-piece suit for men, society had many things to say about hands in the pockets. For what reason were men putting their hands in their pockets? Could it be nervousness, being provocative, rude, lecherous, sexual charisma, or some kind of mystery? Satirists highlighted displays of sexual posturing of fashionable men or people who might identify as queer today with their hands in their pockets. Etiquette articles and publications touted the proper behavior of hands in the pocket. Fashion dictated the elite to put hands in the pockets or waistcoats. Portraits show long before Napoleon men with their hands positioned into the waistcoat front. I found that really cool. Near the end of the Victorian period, women were wondering why men's fashions were not accessible to them. Women had been cross-dressing in times of need, wearing men's clothing to secure jobs to take care of their family, fighting in wars, and stage actresses in theatricals also donned men's clothing, posing with their hands deep in the pockets. Why do we oppose pockets for women? In the early 19th century, women began voicing their frustrations for not having pockets. Pockets were coming and going as fashion dictated, and the mocking for want of pockets was still happening. Bringing social and political change in the late 19th century, early 20th century were suffragettes, activists, and feminists speaking out about the inequality of pockets. Women should have the convenience, flexibility, preparedness, security, and enjoyment that pockets provide. One very interesting illustration from the book was an illustration from an online publication from 2018, showed that 40% of women's pockets and 100% of men's pockets can fit this item. Any idea what it is? So, yeah, and we're still having that issue today. Fashion through the decades of the 20th and 21st century, we see women's pockets come and go, not so much for menswear, which remains about the same. Pocket inventory. What do people have in their pockets? Boys and the contents of their stuffed pockets have been written about and illustrated by many. The curiosity of life and the world around them can be found in a boy's pocket. Marbles, a leaf from a tree, rocks, a toad. One of the most prized possessions for a young boy moving into adulthood was the gift of a pocket knife. Girls did not have many pockets, one on an apron or dress, and descriptions of pocket contents, which are very few, mainly consist of useful things like a sewing kit, a thimble. What secrets are held in pockets? In 1975, the Library of Congress opened a box that held the contents of Abraham Lincoln's pockets from the night of his assassination. The contents revealed simple items, a pair of glasses that were repaired with a piece of string, which brought the humanistic side of him to light. We're on to women's handbags. Hold many things and come in many shapes and sizes. What is inside is a mystery. Think of Mary Poppins. Her carpet bag held large items in a magical way. Art Linkletter's television show in the 1960s showcased the mysteries in a woman's purse or handbag. If you had the odd item he requested, you won a prize. Handbags and purses have stood the test of time. Okay, pocket play. What motivates designers to include pockets in their design? Is it the novelty of playfulness or more? Can it be functional, non-functional, decorative, sexual, or ridiculous? Here we are introduced to fashion designers and their process of designing clothing with pockets in mind. From Christian Dior, Erte, Schiaparelli, Patrick Kelly, and more. Even the surrealist artist Salvador Dali played with pockets. This got me thinking about the different types of pockets. So I just quickly made a little list from my head, but I know there are tons more. You have a breast pocket, a patch pocket, regular dress pocket, classic pocket, box pleat, inverted pleat, welt with flap, a false pocket, a fake pocket, and cargo. And the list does go on from there. Pocket utopias, dreaming of a pocketless world. Here's the exploration of technology in the 20th and 21st century design. Will there be no pockets in clothing in a connected future? Could a person go without the need of a handbag or pocket? In 1936, the sci-fi film Things to Come, author H.G. Wells brings his futuristic ideas on clothing to the forefront. Having written the book and screenplay, he became very involved in the film, working to create simple, sleek lines with no pockets. The simplicity of design was what he envisioned, and it was also noted that he was very difficult to work with. He kept changing his mind all the time. Moving forward to the 21st century, wearable electronics have designers adding sensors and monitors embedded into clothing, digital suits that had keypads woven into the sleeve of a suit jacket. Levi's and Google did a collaboration, and what they did was they wove the connectivity and the threads together and made what they called a commuter trucker jacket with 3 commands. Unfortunately, it was not that successful because you kind of need more. Digital technology keeps us moving forward. Will it be worn close and all over us? Can you imagine life without pockets? In my personal experience, pockets bring a simple joy. I think they will persevere. I've just presented a very small taste of what is in store for you reading this excellent book. I highly recommend this fascinating and fun read. Thank you.